All right, so it's 7:02. I'm going to call the meeting of the October meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to order. And good evening, everybody. And we'll start by having the secretary read the notice into the record.
Town of Farmington Zoning Board of Appeals notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a hybrid in-person and online public hearing on Tuesday, October 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers on the following application. Hallery Monarat application for a variance to locate shed in other than the required yard for single-family residents located at Twin Ponds Road, R40 zone. Interested parties are encouraged to participate in the hybrid public hearing. The link to the meeting may be found on the Town of Farmington's website. A copy of this proposal is available online or by calling the planning department at Farmington Town Hall at 860-675-2325, dated at Farmington, Connecticut, September 26, 2024. Farmington Zoning Board of Appeals, John Juren, Chairman.
All right, so the way that we're going to proceed, I'll first note for the record, since we've called the meeting to order, everyone is present. We need to do a roll call. Two of our members are appearing remotely this evening, Commissioner Cloud and alternate Commissioner Subramanian. And I would just ask the two of them to
and Commissioner Grady Benson.
Oh, is also.
Yes. Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman.
And Commissioner Grady Benson. And I'm just going to ask each of the three to just indicate that they can hear us and we can hear them.
I can hear you, and I hope that you can hear me.
All right.
Loud and clear, Mr. Chairman.
Kate Grady Benson can hear you loud and clear.
All right, very good. Okay, so I will note that before we proceed with the public hearing on the application from Monarat, I'll note that the application itself that was submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission Department is deficient, but as I understand, subsequent to the filing of the application, additional material was received by the department. Is that correct, Mr. Daigle?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it was incorporated in the agenda review.
Okay, so that even though the application itself gives no reasons for a variance, nor does it indicate what zoning regulations are being a request for a hardship is being made. You've indicated that the October 9th, 2024 review includes information. Would you just state, Mr. Daigle, for the record, where the material that would be considered is located on your report?
Yes, so the exact variance request for the regulation that's being requested to be varied is under item number 2 on the second page, the variance request, and that's Article 4, Section 2A, 2A1, I'm sorry. And the statement of hardship is located on item number 3 on the agenda review on pages 2 and 3. And that was staff noticed it was missing from the application and requested it just via email, incorporated into the agenda review.
And also, just for the record, you have provided to all the commissioners the previous application when this house was built. I remember very clearly that there was a hardship based on the fact that most of this lot was wetlands, correct?
Yes.
So as a result, the application at the time was requesting that the house be closer to the street than is permitted by zoning regulations.
Yes, there's a variance in 2021. The application and minutes have been were included with the agenda review, as well as a subsequent attachment was sent to the board members for the wetlands application that was also required as part of the original home being built in 2021.
And I will also just state for the record, in connection with that application, I walked this property, so I have before the house was built, so I have a very clear memory of the circumstances of this particular lot. So, all right. We would like to hear now from the applicant. Would the person who is going to be speaking in favor of the application, please come forward. We have somebody come to the podium. They introduce themselves by name and address, and I assume if you are the homeowner, then you state your relationship. And the way we will work this is anyone either online or in person who wishes to then speak in favor of the application will be allowed to do so after questions from the commission. And then if anyone wishes to speak in opposition to the application, they'll be allowed to do so as well. And if there is such opposition, you'll be given the opportunity to give some kind of response to that. All right, so please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name is Hallery Monarat. My address is 2 Twin Ponds Drive, Unionville, Connecticut, and I am the applicant homeowner.
Okay.
I'm requesting a variance to locate a 10 by 14 shed at the end of my driveway. And the variance is because per Farmington regulations, it's supposed to go along the wider behind the home instead of on the side of the home, from my understanding.
And can you explain why you cannot do that in this particular?
I don't have too much space in the backyard. So because of that, I prefer to have it on the side of the house just for just to have a little bit more yard space in the back.
Again, could you, what I'm trying to understand is when you come here, there are places you're allowed to put a shed.
Correct.
And you have to tell us a reason why it's a hardship, why you
Okay.
could not put it in that location where it's allowed. So we're just asking you to articulate that for us.
Yeah. There's just not a lot of space in the back of the yard. The yard is very limited as it is. So putting a shed where where it is allowed at this point would cause just not enough, like not any space for me. Sorry. There's just not a lot of yard usage in the back.
All right, so I think we'll just go in order as we are seated here. So I'll start with Commissioner Mastrobaptista, if you have any questions.
Yeah, just from my understanding of reading it, the reason you don't have use in your backyard is because you don't have the space and that's because of the wetlands?
The wetlands and conservation easement, yeah.
Okay. So subsequently, you couldn't put it any deeper into your yard without it impinging the wetlands?
Correct.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Go ahead.
so the pictures show the end of the driveway and that's where you want to put it.
Correct, yeah.
Right, okay. So to go behind the house would impinge on the wetlands. Is that correct?
It's not on the wetlands, like right behind the house isn't the wetlands. It's just if I went further back, it would be.
And
Correct.
how much further back would it be? Do you know?
I don't. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
To answer, Mr. Daigle, could you pull up the lot plan again that shows where the wetlands are
Yeah,
located?
Mr. Chairman, there's two separate ones. Do you mind if I just speak to them really quickly? So there's two maps. There's this one right here, which shows the wetlands outlined in blue. And then there's a secondary map, which shows the conservation easement that protects the wetlands behind the home in red. And that was a condition of approval by the Wetlands Commission.
And then the area, if the second picture, the one in pink there,
Sorry. Mr. Chair.
so that we're clear, it shows the footprint of the house, correct?
Yes.
And do you have an overlay that shows the area where the shed would be permitted that also shows the conservation easement?
I don't have the ability to do that. However, I can highlight it.
Okay.
If you give me 1 second. So this right here is the conservation easement in yellow. So here's the allowed area in red, and here's the conservation easement in yellow.
And to further respond to Commissioner DeSantoro's question, then this red area is outside of the conservation easement area. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Does that answer that question?
It does. Thank you.
Do you have any other questions?
No.
And now between your deck and the red line there, there's not enough space to put the shed in any of that red area.
I have garden beds there already, so that's,
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's no, I'm sorry, just bringing up a picture. I just wanted.
And I'm gonna go last, so Commissioner Dembski.
So just to follow up on the questions regarding the red area on the map with the yellow overlay, the red is where it's allowed.
Mhm.
The deck, I couldn't tell, is it an elevated deck or is the deck level with the ground?
it's elevated.
It's an elevated deck.
Mhm.
And then I did actually go by your property today.
Mhm.
And if I look at the picture,
Oh.
sorry, I'm just trying to scroll here.
From Twin Ponds or from Coppermine Road?
So right, there's like a shed-like structure to the left.
Yep.
And where the fence is where the shed would be. Is that
Yep,
accurate?
right in front of it.
And there's room there? Because it looks a little
Yep.
tight. Okay.
I think that would be.
And again, you have garden beds.
Yep.
Is there a side? Can you show that side view picture again, Garrett?
This one, would that work?
There's
or-
another one.
This one.
Yeah, that one. And it looks like there's a jungle, like a playscape next to the,
Correct. Yep. A playscape in the corner.
and that's all within that area.
Mhm.
And then an elevated deck. Is there anything under the deck?
I think it's about 2.5, 3 feet high.
Okay. That's my questions for now. Thank you.
Commissioner
If you
Callahan.
would go back, Garrett, to the red outline that shows the permissible area.
Sure.
So am I understanding correctly, ma'am, that what's in that area now, which is highlighted with the red line, oh, you're looking at the other screen.
Mhm.
That what's in there now is garden beds, a playscape and the deck.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And the shed being 10 by 14 could fit in that area, but you would prefer to put it at the end of the driveway. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Have the neighbors on all sides been apprised of the application?
Yes.
Have you heard any objection or support from any of the neighbors?
I have not.
Okay, and that. I'm all set, thank you.
So let's go to online. I'll first go to Commissioner Cloud.
No questions at this time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Commissioner Grady Benson.
Yes, I just, so 10 by 14, I also drove by your property. And that does look like a tight area for a 10 by 14. And so there won't be any, incursion into the wetlands on the left side of your driveway. See, there's kind of a ditch there. So to get the shed into this space, you won't have to go into that area that has trees. You won't have to take any trees down or anything like that.
No. Behind the driveway, it's level, fairly level.
But to the
And
left
along
of the driveway.
Yeah, along the left. We're not. Yeah, we're nowhere close to that.
So you won't be going in there. So you're gonna be going closer to the house then. with
Closer to
shed.
the house. Correct. Yep.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for me.
Commissioner Subramanian.
Yeah, two questions. First one, so I know there was when the first time this came around to build a house in the first place, there were concerns about wetlands. Are there any concerns about wetlands in this specific case?
No.
No. Okay. So is it correct to say that the primary reason you don't want to build that shed in the allowed area is for aesthetic reasons?
not necessarily aesthetics. I have a small child and there's not that much space between the garden beds where it is now. I always said, I wish I asked for a little bit more with the conservation, just another like 7 feet. But I don't have a lot of room for my son to run around. So I think by locating the shed behind it, it still leaves the right-hand side of the house fairly empty for him with his playscape, and he can run around and kick the soccer ball.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have just a couple of questions.
course.
Could we turn to there's a picture of the, proposed shed. We have that somewhere.
Yes. Hold on once. Yeah, here we go.
So is this gonna be a prefab or is it a post and beam shed that you're planning to put here?
Prefab.
And with the sloped roof, what is the sloped roof going to be angled towards the wetlands?
Yes,
So that during rain, all of the, the water on the roof will be running down towards the wetlands. Am I correct for that?
correct.
And you have, in fact, your house is right on the corner, so there's wetlands. In fact, I remember there's like a water, I won't call it a ditch. It's more like a
Swale.
swale
Yep.
where there's often water because you live across the street from a pond, right?
Yep.
And there's often water right on, there's a copper mine is on the corner there.
Yep. Mhm.
Have you taken any, thought about doing anything to limit the amount of water that would run off the roof into the wetlands, even if this building itself won't encroach on the wetland?
I think the roof of my house is also there and like the gutters go out there. So I haven't put much thought into it because it hasn't ever been an issue where the water in the swale has risen high. And we've had a lot of rain, especially last year, and it was never an issue. So I didn't even consider it, to be honest with you.
Well, I assume your roof of your house has downspouts that
A gutter.
lead- and gutters, and they lead somewhere. They don't lead directly into the wetlands.
They
right?
lead into the backyard, as this would.
Well, but there's no gutters on this one.
Okay. Okay.
All right, and your yard is flat, so I noted there seems to be less than a 2-foot elevation from the rear of your yard, at least the rear of the area outside of the wetlands up to the foundation of your house. It's less than 2 feet, right?
Yeah.
It's very flat there.
Correct. Yep.
And there was a picture I noticed, you mentioned that your son has a soccer, likes to play soccer.
Mhm.
There's a soccer goal, which I saw in one of the pictures that's set up to the right of the playscape. Is that right?
Yes.
Do we have a view from the street for that side, what I would call the right side of your property?
I
So from the other direction, like the area that's over near where the playscape is?
have an aerial view. And if you give me 1 second to check if this will be any better, I can give you kind of say a 45. But it might be that the angles don't. Yeah, let's try this. Can you see that, Mr. Chairman?
I was trying to look for the backyard, though. I can't really see that unless I can.
Yeah, so
There it
here's
is. Got
here's
it.
the playscape. It's at an angle. I can do a top down as well, and I can do
Oh, I see it now.
4 different sides.
Can you,
Is the playscape in the location in this aerial satellite view the same as where it is now?
Yes.
I think that's, yeah, go to the left of the, right of this, please.
And I just have one other question. What is that structure that's now at the end of your driveway there?
It's for my garbage can and it's just stacks of wood.
Okay, so it's
Just
not.
just firewood. It's not a permanent structure. It's just kind of blocking the garbage can.
All right. I assume from bears and whatnot.
Correct. Yep. And then the wood's covered, so that's the white stuff you see.
All
The
right.
white tarp.
I don't have any other questions. Does anyone else?
Yes,
Mr. Young?
directly behind the house.
Hmm.
I don't know how to describe it. There's sort of a triangular area that's beige or tan
Yep.
or brown in color.
That's
Is
my
that for the
garden.
Gardens?
Yep, it's my garden beds.
And is that something that you or your agents put in?
Yes.
Okay. That was my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question. I don't know if. you
Please,
want
of
me or-
course, yeah.
Looking at the picture that's in front of us right now, if we look at that area, that my previous commissioner was talking about, there's like there's like rectangles, vertical rectangles, and then I can't necessarily see well, there's the playscape.
Oh,
And
sorry.
then next to the playscape is probably where your soccer net is. Do we know if there's enough room to put the shed there?
Not really. The soccer net is in front of the playscape, so that just gives him a little room to run around in front of the playscape.
You can't zoom in, can you, Garrett?
Hang on one second. Let me switch back to here. Here, this.
Here,
Yeah,
the more newer.
So I've got two different photos. One's from April with no leaves on it, and then this one is September, which obviously has leaves on it, so it's harder to see the backyard, but you can see the white of that.
Say that again, Garrett. I'm sorry.
So it was included in the agenda review. There's two aerial photos. There's one dated April 22nd, 2024. So there's no leaves on the trees.
Yep.
And then this current one that I just pulled up on the screen is dated September 13th, 2024.
Yep.
But there's leaves on the trees, so sometimes it's harder to see
Yeah, I can see. Right.
defined edges.
Yeah.
You can see the soccer net here. It was not up in April,
Okay.
which is this white shape here.
So if you go to that aerial view where the trees are not encumbered, where there's less leaves on the trees, there's like 3 rectangles, which are the garden beds, the playscape. Then there appears to be a hardened structure kind of diagonally in the right-hand corner closest to the house.
Closest to the house.
See that right there?
Right here?
Nope, I'm sorry. Where the
To the left, I think she means to the left of the playscape.
oh yes, I'm sorry. I was thinking bottom right.
That's my garden beds.
Right. No.
Right there?
Down.
Down. Here?
Nope. Nope. In the corner.
In the corner.
Oh, over here. Up here,
Yes, exactly.
this.
What's that?
That's a playscape. That's the ladder for the monkey bars.
I think the
No,
problem
behind
is
it.
No.
we
Hold
can't
on.
control the,
Hold on.
Sorry.
you're talking about.
Right here. What's
This
that? This is the playscape,
Yeah.
right? So what is that? Right here. Right there. What is
Right
that?
here.
That's the gardens, I thought.
That's the garden.
No, I thought those rectangulars were the
It's
gardens.
a patio table, right?
It's a garden and it's pea gravel. So I have the beds and then that's just a sitting area in the garden. But it's all like has a little fence, like a chicken wire fence to close it off from the animals.
Okay.
That's what that is. So we kind of framed it out.
Is there room in back of those 2 longer beds? Right up again? I mean, we don't necessarily.
No, there's not room. I think we have maybe 5 feet there.
Yeah, the easement, the conservation. Excuse me, sorry.
It's okay.
The property is cleared up to the conservation easement. So everything outside of the conservation.
Right.
easement.
Yeah, I did see
So,
that. right.
so this is, again, not exact, but this line is generally the location of the conservation easement.
Right. Okay, thank
Is
you.
that it?
Yes. If you have another.
I think I thought of something that I should have considered earlier, but I think it might help. What is to be stored in this proposed shed that could not otherwise be stored in the garage or elsewhere on the property?
It's for my snow blower and my lawnmower.
So yard equipment.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
All right, anyone else here in the room, commissioners, have any questions? Anyone online of the 3 remote commissioners?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just one quick question. I'm assuming that where that white structure to the left behind the cars, that's the proposed site for the new shed, correct?
It's going to come up a little bit more because that's not That's probably only like 3 or 4 feet deep. That's where my old stack of wood was, and then we moved it up to behind the driveway to make room for the shed.
That would be. Sorry, everything's different sizes. So that's where this is where that white wood
Was.
pile was.
Gotcha. Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other commissioner? All right, so
Um,
at this,
Sorry, Kate Grady Benson. I just have one question, and it was something, John had asked about where the water flow is going. And I just wonder, based on the stipulations around the inland wetlands approval for the house being built there, were there no requirements about where the water needs to go from your roof, from your gutters, etc.? And you say that it just goes into your backyard from your roof? There were no stipulations about putting water from your roof into the wetlands?
I don't believe
That's
so.
a question.
No.
No, and generally, roof water is considered clean water in terms of I'll say engineering, but in terms of our perspective, roof water is considered clean water. It's usually directly infiltrated, given the high water table in this area that came up during I believe it was during the zoning board of appeals meetings and probably the wetlands meeting as well. Infiltration wouldn't work on this site, so it was sheet flowed as far as I'm aware.
And then the other question is that area to the left of the house, left of the driveway, is that, so that's, that you called it a swale, is that right?
Yes.
Is that supposed to be collecting the water then and moving it? I guess I don't know what that means. So what's the purpose of that? Do you know?
I think we have a lot of water coming from there's a lot of open space behind the house and through all the woods behind in that area. And it all kind of flows into that swale and then into the pond in the front and then across the street.
if I recall correctly, Commissioner Grady Benson, I believe there's a actual duct, a pipe that runs under the street. So it's actually, when there's rain and whatnot, it actually collects water and flows. Although there aren't storm sewers in this area, I believe it acts in that manner for that neighborhood, because across the street is the pond and it flows under Twin Pond Drive, I believe, into the pond, if not the other way. I don't know which direction it flows, but
It flows into the pond.
into the pond.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just thinking this is an impervious surface, this 10 by 14. And then all of the water from it is going off into that swale. So whether that's going to cause some issues around, because if there's soil there or something that's pervious, then it wouldn't do that. I wonder about that. Is there any way to redirect the water away from that?
I can put in gutters. I think that, but again, it would just pull it to the back of the house, to where the wetlands are. It doesn't really, I can't imagine it, whatever's coming off the roof on the shed going into the swale that in large volumes.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else on the commission have any questions before I open it up to the public? Hearing none, is there anyone present who wishes to speak either in favor or in opposition to the application?
He's doing a homework.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
doing a project.
Right. And, I have to ask the question, and Mr. Daigle, is there anyone online who is logged in and has indicated that they wish to speak with regard to this application one way or the other?
Mr. Chairman, there is no one from the public online.
Right, so, having, had the opportunity, no one wishes to speak, I'm gonna close the hearing at this time. And, I'm gonna entertain a motion reminding commissioners that the motion must be presented in the affirmative, in order to be considered, by the commission. Doesn't require you to vote a certain way, but the motion has to be presented in the affirmative. So I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make them, oh, go ahead.
I'll make it if you put the agenda up.
Here.
Oh, you put the agenda, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, just for the we'll say record. The staff is requesting that the motion be made. Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. It was just say that the shed be no closer than 42 feet because this application will have to go to wetlands. If wetlands move the shed, if we say at least 42 feet, it can't be closer to Copper Mine Road, but if we slide it further back while still outside that red area, it wouldn't be in violation of the variance approval. With that said, let me pull
I
up the
will
agenda.
make a motion to approve the application of Haralee Monarat for a variance to locate a shed in other than the required yard for a single-family residence located at 2 Twin Ponds Road, R40 zone, with the condition that the shed shall be no closer than 42 feet from Copper Mine Road.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Discussion, should we, also go in order? Why don't we do that? Any comments? And remember, it's just gonna be the regular commissioners because everyone is present, so, you want to comment?
No comments.
All right, you're the, proponent of the motion. Do you want to go next?
I'm the proponent of the motion. I made the motion in the way that it had to be made. I'm not opposed, but I've got just a couple, some misgivings about the hardship,
All right, so let's,
which I think maybe others have as well.
right, so let me turn to you then.
I was gonna
Commissioner.
say the same thing. I mean, I think, I'm having a hard time with the hardship. I understand that the wetlands are in back. But I'm just, aesthetic reasons are not a reason to not put something in the rear of a house. It's not a hardship. So I'm having a hard time. Personally, maybe the shed could go under the deck or things could go under the deck, with determining whether or not there's an actual hardship.
Commissioner Cloud?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I don't really have any concerns. The hardship is obviously a question, but I don't see any alternative for the homeowner based on the current location of the zone that's been approved, and to the left side, where else she would put this, quite frankly. She can't put it in front of her house. And I wish we could find a creative way to be supportive of the request at the end of the day. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Grady Benson?
Yes, I just wondered, you'd mentioned, the applicant had mentioned that she wanted to store a mower and a snow blower. Is it necessary to have a shed of that size? There are smaller sheds. And I'm wondering if a smaller shed would be less intrusive because that space is small, and given, the impervious surface near a wetlands, it's always good to have, I think, unobstructed land to help absorb some of that water. When we're having bigger and faster and more heavy rainfalls, I think it's something to think about. So whether she could reduce the size of the shed to accommodate the space a little bit better, that would be something that I might suggest. That's it.
And I'll just say this. I remember very clearly, there was a lot of discussion about the this whole lot and putting it in where it was. I don't know if you were already the planned owner when it was presented at that time by the developer, I believe, was the applicant, I think.
In 2021, I was the applicant.
You were the applicant.
Correct,
And
yeah.
I remember, I walked that land. I remember realizing that it was the buildable lot, but it was impossible to put that house where it needed to go to meet with the zoning regulations at the time. But I also was struck by how much water there actually was. I mean, we're not just talking about just wetlands by definition. I remember there came to a point in the yard past where the conservation easement is, it's a drop off, and it was like a swamp almost down there. And I don't want to, overstate it, and there was water in the swale, I remember at that time as well. But I have to say that and I'm reluctant, I feel reluctant about this, but, I can't find that there's a hardship here. And I realize you have lovely gardens from the pictures that I can see, but, you make certain choices. Most people, including myself, I keep my lawnmower and my snow blower in my garage. It means there's less room in my garage, but that's where I think many people keep it. And it would be nice, if I had a shed that would otherwise in my property meet the zoning regs, I'd put one there if I needed one. But I can't see this as a hardship. It has to be, and I also will say that, when you talk about a hardship, it has to be something that's unique to the property itself, not to your use or desire to use it, including, with all due respect to your son or daughter, your child that likes to, play soccer in the yard. The zoning variance goes with the land, not with the
owner, correct.
And so I'm gonna have to vote no on this application, all right? So I'm gonna then now just call for the roll call.
No problem.
I'm sorry,
I didn't know if they had comments.
well, only the regular members can
Oh,
talk
right,
during
sorry,
the
sorry.
deliberations,
Comments.
right?
All right.
And that's by statute, I'll just note that, that only regular members can speak during the deliberations process. So,
All right.
Mr. Day, would you call the roll?
No problem. I'll start with Mr. Callahan,
No.
Commissioner Walsh,
No.
Commissioner Gemsky,
No.
Commissioner Grady Benson,
No.
Commissioner Cloud,
No.
and Chairman Schoenhorn.
I didn't hear your answer, Commissioner Cloud.
It was a reluctant no.
Okay, and no.
Okay.
I'm sorry. But,
All right. Mr. Chairman, the motion fails.
Okay,
Variance is denied.
thank you.
I will note before you leave that there was some discussion about making a different proposal. You're allowed to do so. If it's similar, we have discretion to not consider it for, I think it's 6
months.
months. But we would have the right to consider it if we were to vote. So if you were to make that presentation of an alternative that maybe meets some of the concerns that were expressed here, I'm not going to tell you how we would, I can't read people's minds, but I'm just going to suggest that it is something that within the realm of possibility.
Okay, thank you.
So could you put the agenda back up, please? Mr.
Oh,
Daigle?
sorry. Hold on one second. Sorry about that.
All right, so let's move on to the minutes for the September meeting. Can I entertain a motion with regard to that?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 16th, 2024 meeting.
Could you put up page 2 of the minutes for a minute?
Hold on.
I think there was a typo that I wanted to,
You want me to zoom in?
hold on, no, let me just,
You want a hard copy, Mr.
oh, it's it's right above, I'm looking at, right above where it says new business. It's just a grammatical typo. It says the commissioners agrees,
Agreed.
and it should be agreed past tense.
Did I change that?
I changed it.
No.
Oh, it's already been corrected.
Yeah, I had corrected it.
Right, so the copy that's
Yeah, there, I don't know why that's still there.
Okay,
I must have grabbed the wrong one. I'm sorry.
all right, so if it's already been corrected, then do I have a second on the-
Second.
Commissioner Walsh, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the minutes were approved. And if you could, I just want to make sure that's the only other item on the agenda.
It is, but Mr. Chairman, if there's nothing else, I just want to get the commission's input on a potential application. It's not specific, we'll say. There's an existing home that had a fire. They are looking to rebuild the home. The existing home encroached on the front yard setback. Under the zoning regulations, the zoning board of appeals is delegated a special exception for a change in non-conforming structure or use. If the home was moved further back from the road and the area within the front yard setback did not increase, does the board believe that might fall under the special exception for for a change in nonconformity if it's a reduction in the or an increase in the setback from the front property line, but the area within the setback remains the same? It is purely whether I advise the homeowner to apply for a variance or a special exception.
Can you repeat that?
All right, so
Testing you now.
yeah. So under the zoning regulations,
Yes.
a power is delegated to the zoning board of appeals for a
Correct.
special exception for a change in non-conforming use or structure. So let's say there's a business use in a residential zone. It was a doctor's office. And someone came in, they wanted to make it
Dentist.
a tax office. It's a reduction in nonconformity because a tax office, they're busy maybe in April, but that in March, but that's about it. Otherwise, it's pretty quiet as opposed to a medical office, which has patients there every day and medical and stuff like that. The question is, there's a home that is located in the front yard setback for the zone in which it's located.
Right.
If the property owner came in with an application to reduce the nonconformity in the front yard in terms of the distance. So let's say we're at 25 feet, setback is 50 feet, we're moving to 40 feet, but the area within that front yard setback would remain the same. I'm using exaggerated numbers.
Yep.
And I'm still waiting on a survey from the property owner to determine if that would even meet it. But I'm trying to get the feel of the board of whether you would accept that argument for an application, or I should just advise them to apply for a variance. There is likely hardship on the property anyway. It's how hard you have to argue.
Let me just say, I don't think just based on what you're telling me, I can make a determination. And I know there's a case that I read about that involved some kind of somewhere along the shore. So I've got to look up that case that where there was some historic structure, but it had been damaged by a hurricane.
Mhm.
And they wanted to replace it. And there's some, I'd rather look at a couple
No,
of
it's-
cases on that.
And again, it's to be honest, I might just advise the homeowner to apply for both
I'm
and
gonna just say.
make the
can't they
same.
apply for
We're not
both?
we'll charge them the same. It'll be the same meeting. Apply for both. We'll start with the special exception. If the board, I'm going to say buys the argument, that's not going to be the word, but if the board accepts that argument, then they don't have to argue further for a hardship. We can treat it obviously we'll hear it at the same time because the application is not going to change, it's just what the argument is.
I mean, I'm just like, the sense of the board, does that seem like a reasonable way? Because
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why, like I said, I'm still waiting on the survey to actually confirm what that is. And if that's the case, I will put all that in the agenda review. So similar, if someone had a 1-story in the front yard setback and you're looking to add a 2nd story, that's probably more likely to fall under the expansion of the nonconformity as opposed to an actual variance. But that, again, it's a non-binding, just trying to give them some information. But I thought about it this afternoon, but I wanted to check with the board of maybe just tell him apply for both, give reasons for both, and then we'll start with the easy one. And if not, we'll go to the variance.
Sure. And is there anything else likely at this point for next month?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Very
That's all
good.
I got.
So
Thank you very much.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.
All right. Thank you, everyone.